Hi again, everybody. My name is Kate. I work with Glazers. I run all the event programming for the store here today and every day. And today we are here to talk about and kind of show you a little virtual first look at the Fujifilm X-T4. I know there's a lot of excitement around this camera. I did get the opportunity to play around with it and demo it a little bit, I guess back in March. And it's a pretty fantastic upgrade. If you're on an X-T1, 2, or 3, you'll probably love this camera. I know that I do. If you've been thinking about a video camera, this will be a great one for you as well. So a little bit about Glazers and how we're operating during this time. We are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for curbside pickup. We are also open 24/7 for your web orders. So if there's items that you want to order, you can just go to our website and place those orders online. And if you order over the weekend, we're very quickly trying to ship everything we can on Mondays and being very quick about it. We do offer free shipping on orders over $50 with some restrictions applied, of course. And there's staff on hand in the store, so you can give us a call if you have questions about things and all that good stuff. Along with that, we've shifted obviously to doing some virtual programming. So typically 2 or 3 days a week, we're doing some kind of online programming, providing you information, education, inspiration, so that you can hopefully keep creating while you can, when you can, during all of this. So today we have Luis Navarro, who is with Fujifilm. He's one of their technical representatives. He's going to be leading the discussion. He's got a presentation for you. So he's going to share his screen and show you some slides and talk about the new X-T4. We also have on the line Victor Naranjo, who is our regional Fujifilm sales rep. So if you guys have been to any of our events over the past couple of years, you've probably met one or both of these guys. So we're here for you today. We're looking forward to checking out the X-T4. If you have questions about the camera, like I was saying before we kind of kicked things off, please feel free to post those questions in the chat room. If it's pertinent to what Luis is talking about at that time, we will filter those in for you. We may hold some of those questions till the end. And once we're close to the end, we'll do a final call for questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So we also have Jeff Hinsey on the line, who is with Fujifilm and works with specific clients in the Fujifilm family and stuff. So lots of Fujifilm presence here, so it's really awesome. And Luis, I'm going to kick it over to you so that we can get this started.
Thank you, Kate, and also thank you for Glazers for having us here. My name is Luis Navarro. I'm the Senior Product Specialist for the West Coast. So I'm fortunate to cover some really nice states out here, including Seattle, Washington, and times to go to Hawaii. So I think I feel pretty lucky for having this territory. But I'd like to cover on the X-T4, and it will be released May 11th, and we will talk about the different bundles and pricing on that in our PowerPoint. And I'll get started right now, and I'll try not to go verbatim, but what's important in certain subjects we'll cover. So let's start on this PowerPoint. Let me select. So X-T4. So X-T4 is not a camera that's replacing the X-T3. It's just going to be a sibling that's be part of our system. X-T4 is a camera that's going to give you the highest performance. There are some upgrades on the processor that really pushes the processor to do quite a few new things on focusing and processing the images. So this camera is really good for from novice to the professionals and everybody between. I think people will enjoy this camera. Anybody who's been using our products, many are very similar. It's just we've added a couple more things because of the new features. So camera's great, like I said, for creative people. DSLR cameras for landscape, portraits. Of course, now these days, we're at home creating a lot of YouTube content. So between the X-T4 and the X-T3, I've been creating some content that's going pretty soon live. These two cameras, they really share some of the features, but they really go side by side. So I think it's a camera, if you already have the X-T3, I think this is going to be a great addition to it. Start back. So camera, it will start body only for $1699.95, and that will be the silver and the black finish. Again, that would be May 11th. And we're going to offer these two kits, one with the 18 to 55 for $20.99, so $2,100. Second kit will be this new 16 to 80 kit, and that is the F4. The body or the lens is already stabilized, so it will do a combination with the body and the lens to combine its stabilization, and that's going to be for about $2,200. Those kits will be somewhere starting delivery probably mid-June. If you need an exact date, I think Victor will furnish that. We have it somewhere in our email. So what's new on this camera, again, it's very similar to X-T3, but the difference will be this camera will have in-body stabilization. Difference between our H1 was 5.5 stops, and the new X-T4, it's actually 6.5 stops. So big difference. Technology on the focal plane is also new. Focal plane's much quieter. So the predecessor or the previous current model, the X-T3, the lifespan on that's 150,000 shutter. This one's 300,000. So we double the shutter life. Also, it's quiet, half the noise it will create. So it's very quiet. Newest too, what people have been wanting is the new high capacity battery. So practically will give you double the life of both stills and video. Another thing people have been requesting, a very angled touchscreen. People who like to do vlogging, it's also very helpful if you're doing video that you're causing or you're creating, to see yourself on the screen without using a third-party LCD monitor. So that could be also very helpful. So good tools to have. So we upgrade the movie features. Some of the features I'll go on the next PowerPoint. And also we upgrade some of the still features on this camera too. Again, weather resistant, just like our predecessors, rest of the lineup. It is weather resistant with the body. And if you use any of our WR weather resistant lens, then your whole camera will be weather resistant for different environments from humidity, rain, snow, things like that. So pretty much on the camera itself, it will resemble much like the X-T3, but we have moved or put some of the new buttons. So your upper dial, and that's at the upper right corner, and that is the one, I don't know if you can see, it'll be where the light meter modes were, it used to be. Now we just have stills or movie. And that's been requested by a lot of folks, not just from professionals. Even when it was with Glazers, I talked to the local press people, Associated Press, that they wanted something that they could go from stills to video, since now they have to do both, and they have to do it on the spot. With X-T3, you have to move the dial all the way to the movie. Here, they could do it with just, no, you don't have to look at the dial to turn it. So it's just left or right. So that's a big plus. We actually added a autofocus back button onto the left of the dial of your command wheel. Your Q button's much further up, low surface. So it's very hard now to press it by accident. So that's gonna be a good thing. On the command wheel to the left, we have where the ISO is. We added a drive button. We have now HDR. So the HDR really took in place of the double exposure. Double exposure is still there. It's just now you just got to go into the movie. But HDR is very clean HDR. So it's very customizable. It depends on the dynamic range you want and the percentage. Also lockable eyepiece. So on each side of the eyepiece, there's little flanges on the corners or the outside that you press and remove. So that actually will prevent from breaking when you're trying to shove it into your camera bag. So I think that's going to be a nice feature. And then also the very angle LCD. The beauty about the angle of the LCD, that it will twist and turn around when you have your display. But nice too is when you turn it around, now you're protecting the LCD. I think that's a really good feature. And I think this is going to be good for also who are people who want to mimic the film cameras, that they just want to rely on the eyepiece, don't look at an LCD. Very similar to X Pro 3. You're not looking at the LCD when you're shooting and you're concentrating to your subject. I think that's a great addition to the cameras. We still kept the D-pad, and we still have the joystick to the camera on the back. So easy maneuvers, great features in the back. It's this light, same as the 300 or X-T3. The new grip does extend just a little bit more compared to the X-T3 and then the X-T4. So if you're working with bigger lenses, it definitely feels really nice. There are folks who like the X-T3 because it's very compact. X-T4 is just 30% larger than the X-T3 or just 30% smaller than the H1. So it is a little bit more compact than the H1 with the in-body stabilization. Improvements on also were done on the grip. So the grip will hold 2 additional batteries. On the top dial, we still have the same sequence with the ISO. We have your shutter speeds on the far right. We also upgraded on the shutter release, have soft touch, comp wheel, same as the X-T3. So it allows you to go from 0 to 3 to 0 to -3, +3, but you could go to -5 or +5 when you put it and turn it to seek, and that's when you want to use the command wheel to go to ±5. So pretty much on the layouts, we added, like I said, we could do HDR mode with a RAW file. So you could do a JPEG with dynamic range with your RAW file. So that probably was a big request from a lot of the photographers wanting into the X-T3 to see the next generation on the X-T4. For audio, we do have a mic 3.5 and the remote. That's 2.5. So any type of remote, we do have a remote to use, very similar to what most of the industry has, is the 2.5. And then power supply. So the camera does come with a USB-C to USB-C cable. That cable comes part of your kit. Also with your kit comes with your charger. That's also a USB-C, and it's a 15-watt charger. So that will charge your battery in the camera, and if you have the grip, that will charge all 3 batteries just from the USB-C. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible without any third-party or additional power supply. And that is your USB-C 3.5 millimeter headphone jack adapter that we add to the kit. So that way you can connect your headphones if you want to listen to your video or your audio from filming. We do have dual SD cards. Just the way we format it from top to bottom instead of side to side. But they're both UHS 2 cards, high speeds. So I would definitely recommend anything that is 285 bits per second if you're going to do multiple frames. Since the new shutter speed mechanism, mechanical box, will now do up to 15 frames per second. Electronic, you can still do about 30 frames per second electronic. So we're still using the 26 1.5 or 26 1.1 X-Trans sensor, just from our X-T3 4th generation. It's a great sensor. It has a lot to improve on firmware updates, so we have a lot of things we could upgrade. Also, the axis is 5-axis, 6.5 stops in body stabilization. It does a very good job on stabilizing both on stills and video, so you can handhold. And I think it comes really well when you're using some of our prime lenses that does not have lens stabilization. The only one that does have lens stabilization on our primes, it will be our 200 2.0 and our 80 2.8 macro. Variable screen is 3.0 inches. It's like I said, it will swivel and you could tilt it to front of you to do your filming, but it will tilt back and you can flip it to close and protect the LCD. We also upgraded on our wide tracking autofocus. So our focus, when you're doing wide tracking works really good when you're 28 millimeters or wider on a lens. That as soon as they come into the picture on your 425 focusing points, it will start tracking as soon as you have press your shutter. So it's really snappy on that, and it will track so you compose your image and take the picture. We added a new color negative called internal bleach bypass. So it's internal film. That's our cinematic film that came from motion pictures. What internal bleach bypass looks like, if you ever seen the movie 300 with the faint colors, that's what kind of resembles. It was very popular when you want to color those graded to that color. Now you get that color negative setting to get that look. I think it's going to be a very popular look. it does give you a greater dynamic range. It's good for both stills and video. Again, the new functions, HDR, your multiple exposures. Now you can do multiple exposures up to 9 frames. And again, you can set that in your custom for any button or go straight to your menu. We have AF limiter for focusing. We originally introduced it with the X Pro 3. Now we added to the X-T4. And then the new focus bracketing in the back of the button. DCI for 4K 60. So with face eye detection is very quick. And also when the person's maybe 10 feet to 15 feet away, it actually still tracks from a distance. We also have a new high-speed recording, 240 frames per second. That's 10% more slower than our 120, and it's really, really smooth when you're focusing and shooting film on that mode. So if you want to do any of that motion and commercial shooting or any movement and sporting, I think it's a great feature to use on that. Again, cameras, it is included for your jack headphones jack to include it in your cord. It is included in your kit. And then just like the X-T3, it is 422-bit internal HDMI. So if you're recording to, example, out of mouse, you will get 422 out 10-bit. Inside the camera, you will get 420 10-bit. Since we have a lot of our film styles in the camera, there's no need to do outside grading if you need, but we do have LUTs to download from our website if you want any of our film simulations, including internal. New mechanical box. So the new mechanical box, compared to the H1 or the GFX 100, instead of being a spring-loaded suspended, it's actually magnetic field strips or springs that will hold. So it's much smaller of a component. So that's how we made it, the camera, smaller body. A little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, so 20% lighter, 30% smaller. I think for folks who are looking for something smaller for street photography or to be low-key on weddings and events, street photography, I think this is going to be a fantastic camera for those folks. Here's a list of what lenses we want to get on stabilization, how many stops compared to the H1. So for most, we're getting another 1.5 stops for most of the lenses. Tracking, or actually low light. So we're just giving you a sample of a little piece on a newspaper. Now here, this is showing with one of our stabilizations with one of our prime lenses, showing that how low you could go with your shutter speed handheld to get things in focus. And for most, 1/4 of a second, I got it down to practically less than a second. So it depends on the person and depends how many Monster drinks or caffeinated drinks you had. But for most, I think we get it down to at least a second. But we definitely have some samples for 1/4 of a second. So you could tell from the difference how legible the reading on your text. Down to 2 seconds, that's still legible. So, but as 1 second, it's definitely going to be a little bit sharper. But I think 2 seconds is still pretty good. So on the new suspended magnetic field that we use now for a leaf shutter, it's also 30% more quiet. Durability is twice as the X-T3, and now mechanical 15 frames per second. So that's quite a bit of new technology we added to some of the cameras compared to some of our competitors. Right now I'm showing a slide. You can hear the sound, how quiet it is, and how fast, and that's 15 frames per second. And see if I could do it with my camera. I'm going to do set up my camera with no cord. Power setup. Let's see here. I'm going to have to do that later because somehow I need to do one more upgrade on my camera, my X-T4. But I'll play one more time on the video. And compared to the X-T3, it's definitely much quieter than the X-T3. So when you're doing events and weddings, you probably also just get away with just the mechanical shutter just to get the shots. And I think it's going to be much quieter than a lot of our DSLRs and some of the other mirrorless cameras. Battery life. So on the new battery, it's our new NP-W235. I don't know if anybody remembers back then in 2007, we introduced our, back then it was a mirror, not a mirrorless, but it was a DSLR digital, our Pro S5. It's very similar to that battery. I just took my 5 out and they look identical to the battery. So that's very similar. That's just the difference is this battery has more amperage than our previous battery back in the 2007 on our DSLR S5. So now you get about 600 frames. With electronic viewfinder, if you're always looking at it, you get to 570. With the grip, now you get up to 1600 to 1700 frames per grip. So that's quite a bit difference from the X-T3. I think the X-T3 you got between 1100 and 1400, but with the new X-T4, you definitely could go a lot more than our previous models, including the H1. So battery grip price is $329.99. It will hold 2 NP batteries, 235s, and you could charge all 3 batteries through the USB-C port, and that's the same cable and also the same charger that comes in your kit of your camera body or the lens. You also get the headphone jack to adapt to your headphones through USB-C, and so some of the new features we added. Also with adapters, we do have a new adapter. I think my next PowerPoint will show the adapter. So there's a dual adapter that should be available when the camera gets released for $69.99. This will charge 2 batteries at a time. So what you'll do, you'll take your existing battery, or not battery, but the existing cable and charger that comes with your kit, with your body or with a body kit lens, use that same charger and that will charge the battery. The nice thing in that is has an indicator display LCD that will tell you what is the level status of each battery. And so I will highly recommend this will be a great accessory for your camera if you can have more than 1 battery. Also, if you have 2 batteries, if you want to charge one, you can charge it separately. Here, just showing a silver model. That's a nice silver finish, very similar to the X-T3 finish. We are using close to 3.7 million dots electronic OLED viewfinder, very bright and low light. This will do -6 EV, so actually very low light, including like if you're shooting wedding receptions, especially when they're doing first dance, very low light. It's really good at focusing on their faces and on their eye to get in focus from a distance. We improved the rubber cup. I think it's a really amazing new cup that actually the size and the replaceable. So it is very similar adapter, the way it adapts previous other cups too. So if you're using a third-party attachment like ring gear, if you have like think tank ring gear bags, that little adapter they have, it will fit on that camera. We already tested that. So available in 2 colors. We got a black and silver. So the choice is very distinct. The silver looks very classic, like a film camera, and the black finish, a lot of people like the black finish. Very low-key color that a lot of cameras are, but silver is really a nice, handsome color. Size-wise, not much difference in height, just barely enough difference to see. Sometimes I gotta turn the cameras facing towards me just to see which one's the X-T3 and which one's the X-T4. Breakdown again, we have improved LCD from 1.04 million dots to 1.6.2 million dots on the screen. So it's much brighter, colors are more vibrant. So on a very bright day, it's gonna actually, you can see the true colors and the brightness on a bright day. Faster focus on the tracking, low light, like I said, -6 EV compared to -3. Maximum burst shooting, it's 15 frames instead of 11 frames. So great for sport shooting, action. Burst shooting live with no blackout, it's 8 frames per second. And then on X-T3 5.7. Definitely an improvement on blackout. Durability, we've gone over that on the shutter. Release lag time, 35 milliseconds compared to 45 milliseconds. Number of frames per body images is 500, 600 images if you do economy mode compared to 390. And with the grip, you'll get up to 1700 economy mode and then 1100 with the X-T3 with its grip. And body stabilization has 6.5 stops, and the X-T3 does not have in-body stabilization. So here are a couple of the pointers that that's different from the X-T3. We have -6 EV, phase detection, autofocus, great for low light. Color chroma effects, we have a new control. That actually comes from our GFX 100 or N50, some of the new features. We have the new HDR, up to 9 frames you can combine in the camera. 15 frames per second on shooting, on the new mechanical box, face detection, and then also you get up to 30 frames continuous shooting with minimal blackout. I think that's going to be great for people who have to constantly concentrate on their subject and any movement that you can still keep up with the tracking. So cameras wise, same sensor, same processor. Just on the new processor, I know they ramped up some of the circuit to really increase some of the performance on this camera. I'm going to show you a video. This is our ex-photographer, not ex-photographer, he's one of our Fuji employees from Canada, Billy Long. Probably some of you will recognize him. And this is going to show you how our face detection works with tracking while movement. I want to play this again, and what I like to talk about is what we've done improvement is as soon as he walks away or looks away, the eye detection picks it up, the box picks it up, and then also the biggest improvement is the distance. The further he's going, we're still able to track his eye, his face. And that's really critical with a lot of photographers who are shooting people, models, brides and grooms who are walking away. I think that's going to be a great feature on the X-T4. I have another video here showing a little bit of a close-up tracking. This is on video. The first one was on film, stills. I want to show this again. Oh, go back again. Trying to turn on find my mouse. There it goes. It disappears for a second. Again, this is also, again, with the previous one we saw was stills. This is also on video. So they both will get this performance, both on stills and video. On this one, we're going to show white tracking. So instead of face detection, this is tracking with a single point. And see if I get this going. Find my mouse. For some reason, it's disappeared for the second. Yeah, there we go. So again, white tracking, single point, and that's a big improvement we've done. So he goes out of the picture, comes back in the picture, it finds him right away to track him. So let's go to the next PowerPoint. Again, in and out of the picture, back in the frame, still tracks it. So it's very responsive. You notice that there's a delay, so it will constantly be tracking the person as soon as he comes in and out. And you do have that control of how much delay you want on the subject. So upgrade, we do have a new white balance custom priority. So it definitely depends what custom white balance. So if you're in a room with mixed colors, mixed white balance, so tungsten, fluorescent, say daylight, you could tell it which one you want to control into what side of the white balance spectrum you want to do that. So you could do that, controlling that with a white balance, automatic. Precise tone adjustment and camera. You can actually take one of your RAWs from the camera, from your card, process it in the camera itself, and that will be a 16-bit TIFF. So that's a good size file to export. So if you needed to bring out a file right out of the camera because it needs to be printed large, that's a great place to pull a nice large file, and that'll be in TIFF format. Multiple exposure frames, blend modes. That's like very similar to what we called multiple exposures, that you can blend up to 9 frames, and it's live. You can see those multiple exposures, so you can recompose that image when you do a multiple exposure blending. HDR mode, so you could do your HDR mode with RAW and a JPEG. Improve ISO noise reduction. We also have the new color effects. So what it does, you could control the blue sky or the blue water, and when the rest of the landscape colors would be left alone, so you can enhance it. So you can really get it more enhanced, just like our Velvet film that concentrates on the blues. Grain effect, and again, you can control some of the grain effect both on chrome or film styles, color negatives. Now we also have what we call battery age menu. It's something that we have on our GFX. This will tell you the age of each of the batteries. As you charge the batteries and get used, it will tell you the age. And so when it has like little spectrum dotted line, when you get in low, at least it gives you an indication that it's time to replace that battery. So kind of prevents you from having any failures in the future. Mount adaptive settings, save self-timer. I think for a lot of landscape photographers, gonna love this feature, is we have it also on our GFX. So you can use your self-timer, but tell in the menu that if even you turn off the power, your self-timer still comes back. You don't have to go back in the menu and turn it back on. It will stay on every time you turn off the power of the camera off and off. So I think that's gonna be a great feature for people who use the self-timer and it wants to be constantly on all the time. Improved Q menu. So the beauty about the new menus now is it's separated. So if you're in the stills mode, the menu is just to affect the stills. If you're on the video mode, it just gives you the features that you want to affect on your video. So it allows you to separate, prevents you from going through so many menus just to bounce back and forth from different menus from stills and videos. This allows you to separate it, get into your actions, and also for your favorites. You could tell what favorites you want to look up at 6 at a time, or in your Q menu, you can see, say, maybe 6 options, 8 options, 12 options. You have that control. Depends what's important to you. Here is showing what we call focus bracketing. So right now it's showing you a live focus bracketing. Now it's a feature that you could actually turn on, and you can focus bracket, and you could tell where your point's going to be starting, where the end point's going to be finishing, and how many frames, how many movements from front to back, and it will give you your final shot. So I think people who do macro, products, landscape, I think this is going to be a terrific feature for photographers. DCI 4K, 60 frames per second. You can do 4K video capture. Here's what I was explaining earlier about 2 different menus. It's nice that you just, when you go to film or movie, you just get the movie setups. So you really not have to jump around for the other menus that you don't need. So it instantly goes to what you need for movie, and then for stills, just for your stills. When you get that feature is when you have your dial set either for film or stills. Video capture. So Interna can be used both stills and video. Both cameras, X-T3 and X-T4, both are 400 bits per second bit rate. What new is on the headphone jack, on this one will be the USB-C port. What's new also, again, the 240 frames per second for controlling slow motion. Let's see what else. New F-Log Assist. So F-Log Assist, what it does, if you're shooting log, and if you want to see what particular log you want to set, maybe any particular film style, it actually will turn it on for you so you can see what the actual look or color grading you want to perform afterwards. So it gives you a reference. See what else we could do. Resizable focus points, just the control. We do have the mic control, mic line out and mic out option. Menu, new location, very low flush. so you're not going to hit it by accident. Custom settings for your movie, backup slot for film. So that's also new. So before, you had 2 cards in your slot. You get backup for stills, A and B, not for movies. X-T4, now you could do a backup on your movies. And I think that's a lot of folks will appreciate that. So you could do a backup on B number 2 card. So just in case for emergency, if you lose something on your first card, you can now back up to a second card on your camera. Here, we're just going to show you that this is a new added feature. It's digital image stabilization. But also using it on your movie mode, it does give you a slight crop, 10%. 10% that you can actually set the camera to a preset. So everything that you shoot will be a preset of maybe 1.29 throughout the whole time. So there's really no editing, post-production, recropping. So we can really make it simple, because sometimes if you're shooting different crops, we could actually size it for one crop for the whole production. What digital image stabilization does, it actually gives you control like you're shooting with a steady cam or a glide cam. It does a very good job. If you're not going to be able to use a tripod, it actually flows with the motion really good. Then we have IBIS boost mode, handheld panning. So that it's actually will be another good feature if you want to pan without a in-body stabilization. And it just looks like you're doing still shots with the tripod. And here we have comparison with the digital image stabilization, which was trying to find. There we go. It will be starting in a second. So this is with the digital image stabilization off. And this is with on. And here's side-by-side comparisons. Now this one's going to be, double check, I'm not moving. I want to make sure we're on the right one. And find my mouse. Just colliding the mouse onto the start point since it's kind of invisible. There we go. So this is just I'm doing the repeat of the digital image stabilization. And again, this is for your video options. Let's see if I get this one started by selecting. Oops. Yeah, let's see here. Let me try that again. This mouse, there we go. So this is with the boost off for IS. And this is with on, turned on the boost. And here's side-by-side comparison. So here's a new film simulation. The difference, I think this one just says Interna, and the next one is internal bleach bypass. Again, it really looks like, if you've ever seen the movie 300, very faded colors, very monochromatic with the background. That's a very distinct look. So it kind of gives you a low saturation, low high contrast. And that is the last of my PowerPoint. So I'm going to go back to Kate and see if we need to answer any questions for anybody.
That's great. I'm looking at those features, and I knew that there were a lot of upgrades, but this is silly. I'm really excited about the self-timer option because I use my self-timer all the time. So that's really fantastic. Do you guys have any questions? I know a couple have come in through the chat room, and we've been kind of answering those as they've come along. And then in one case about the battery, that was pretty much answered in the next 2 slides, I think. So does anybody have any questions? You can ask with your voice, or you can ask in the chat room. Everybody's so quiet. So Louis, I think they answered all your questions. You've answered all their questions. No one has any questions, hey? Okay. US ship date. Okay, so they're available, was the date May 11th? Is that what you said at the beginning?
May 11th, yes. And
May 11th.
that's body only, silver and black.
Okay.
And the bundles with the lenses on the 2 lenses will be, I believe, mid-June. I don't have an exact date. Maybe I'll check with Victor. You have the exact date? I've just been saying mid-June.
Okay. So for the bundles, they're going to be a little bit later?
Yes, yes.
Kate?
Okay, so can you assign the metering mode function to one of the external function buttons on the camera?
Yes, you could, yes.
Okay.
Yes, any of the function buttons could be programmed to metering. Just one of the things we decided to do and talked to a lot of photographers, a panel, what feature they like to see the most and what they use the least and where we could take in place. And a lot of people who don't use the metering, I mean, I tend to use the metering, not as much, but using it as a function button, you could program it within seconds by holding the back of the display. So I think the replacement of the metering, having stills and video, I think a lot of people agree that's going to be a good placement of the dial, especially for hybrid photographers.
Well, and I also, I love the Q menu. I can't recall if you said this or not, but the Q menu, when you're in movie mode, flips into a movie Q menu. So when you're flipped on over to movie mode, you hit Q, and now you have your go-to settings for creating video.
The Q independent, I think that's going to be easier for your workflow to get into your camera, your settings. It's just much easier to, without thinking where you have to skip just to get in certain things. Everything's there. And Q menu is, like I said, you can see up to 6 panels, up to 16 panels. You could customize that. Just like the X Pro 3, you can see your different panels.
So Victor, did you have any more information on when the bundles would be available?
We're shooting for the first part of June. So
Okay.
that's the latest and greatest that we've been given as far as ship dates. But we will definitely keep you posted.
So I would like to mention that while the X-T4 is available on May 11th, the first shipment that we've received has already been accounted for with pre-orders. So if you want to pre-order one, please just give the store a call and we'll get your name on the list for as we continue to get more in. A couple more questions coming in through the chat room now. So with 15 frames per second and wide tracking, could this be a good birding camera? And then someone's asking about a potential 500mm lens, or is that wishful thinking?
No, I mean, Japan, they always ask us what's photographers we're asking, and we have them give them a good list from wide to ultra long reach. So they're looking at every aspect of everything. So I believe, I know we've done, the next lens coming out will be the new 50mm 1.0.
Oh yeah, that ought to be fun.
So that's been requested, and that's gone through different photographer panels because of the size was a big factor. By making it from a 33 to 50, definitely made it more smaller, compact, because some people want to say, well, I want to use it in the street. I don't want to have something heavy all day. And so we find a medium, and 50mm 1.0 was a good medium for everybody. So that should be out sometime this year.
Okay, cool. I'm at a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap this up shortly. So question about turning IBIS off if you're on a tripod. Is that easy to do? Do you recommend turning it off? Okay.
So my camera, on any of our cameras, since we have My Menu in the cameras, when you set up your My Menu, any features, you could do quite a few features. When you first press your menu OK, first thing that shows up is My Menu. And the first thing I have is IBIS off and on. So right now I have it off. But if you have a lens that has image body stabilization, if you turn it off from the lens, it will also turn off the camera. So you don't have to go in the menu to turn it off. And then if you're using the 16-280, our new lens, the lens recognizes on a very stable platform and it automatically will turn it off for you. So you don't forget by accident.
Okay, awesome. So one question, let's see here, I'm scrolling through. Someone did ask about, some of these questions are coming to me privately, so they're not showing up in the general group. Will you guys continue to upgrade the firmware on the XH1? Or is this kind of the XH1 replacement? Do you see that?
No, it is not definitely not a H1 replacement.
Okay.
They still see a lineup for the H1 series. That's very important to the company.
Yeah.
So they will continue.
Okay.
Anything in the drawing plans, of course, everything's being delayed, including firmware updates and everything for everybody else, everybody in the industry, because all the programmers are just sitting home now than compared to what they used to be in the office.
Right.
But yeah, the H1 lineup, it's the so yes. We'll see something in the future.
But there is newer technology in the X-T4 over the XH1. So if you were wanting some of that newer technology, it could be a good upgrade.
Yes.
Potentially.
Well,
okay.
It's just some new modifications to the processor.
Yeah.
Circuitry. So I'm sure there's a couple things they probably can do because they had to do something to the circuit board.
Okay. So another question is, are the X-T4s being made in China or?
Nope. If you look in my camera, it says Japan. I think I have it in my lid. This is made in Japan.
Okay, cool.
And so,
however, I believe it's going to be China. I think some of the prototypes were made in Japan, but we can get back to you with confirmation on that.
Okay. Yeah, I saw in one of the photos it looked like it had said made in China. So maybe it's.
Yeah, that's my understanding, that they're made in China.
Okay. All right, so one other question real quick, and then we'll wrap this up for the day. Someone did ask about if you're photographing travel and family portraits and want to do some video as well, do you think the X-T4, the X Pro 3 would be a better option? I know personally for me, I think the X-T4 would be a little bit better for those options because it's really designed to be a little bit more of a video camera as well.
yes, it just has a lot more features. To let you know, the X Pro 3 does not have HDMI out. So if you wanted to add a external monitor, you can't because we don't have HDMI on that one.
Well, but also the X-T4 has the in-body stabilization. The X Pro 3 won't have that.
Correct.
So there are a couple of features that if you're going to be doing more video, you'd probably want to get the X-T4 over the X Pro 3. So yeah, hopefully that helps answer your question there.
Plus you get the tilt screen to tilt it towards you.
Yeah.
So,
and you can vlog with it too. There's a lot of options that you can do with the X-T4 too. So, okay, well, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank Louis for his time and his presentation, all the detail and information about the X-T4. It's really a fantastic update. I'm still on an X-T2 myself, and occasionally I get to use an X-T3. But seeing a lot of these feature sets, I'm like, okay, it's time for me to upgrade. Michael's asking, we're looking at the kits to hopefully be early June, but also feel free to give the store a call and we can put you down for one when they come in. So thank you, Louis and Victor and Jeff from Fujifilm for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And just real quick, Glazers, we are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for curbside pickup, 24/7 for web orders. We have staff here for you if you have questions, so just give us a call. We are also taking used gear in again and repairs and sensor cleanings and stuff. So if you have questions about any of that, links to our the details and information are on our website. You can also give the store a call. Look for more of these sessions. Friday, I'm doing a Lightroom Q&A for an hour. So if you are in the Lightroom, there's a few spots left. Tune in and ask me questions and try and break me and my brain with Lightroom. And more coming in May, as we are almost in May already. So stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.